All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to talk about something that I fell in love with, probably almost 8 years ago now, which is marketing automation. So I'm very excited to share this information with you guys today. I'm going to give everyone that registered just another minute or so to start piling in. So that way we can go ahead and get started. So while that's happening, let's do just a little bit of housekeeping items. So first of all, you guys have registered to share an hour or so of your time with me. And in order to get the best benefit for that hour, I would like to try to have you guys close the distractions, turn off the noise on your phone, close Slack, close email, or at least just minimize it so it's not a distraction. Because the best way, it's just like any good movie. Like if you're watching a movie at home and you got your cell phone in your hand, you don't really get into the movie. But if you go to the movie theater and you put your phone away, you get into the movie a lot more because you're really focused on one central thing. And the goal of these webinars is literally to give you as much value and education as I can without charging you a dime for it. So use this time wisely. Just because it's free doesn't mean you should overlook it, because if you've been to any of my previous webinars, you know I'm going to give you guys my absolute best information that I possibly can. So that's where we're going to start today. And with that being said, while you guys are piling in the room here, if you could put what your trade is and what city or state you're from, just throw it in the chat. So that way we can get used to using the chat feature. And then that way you guys also know exactly where to go answer or ask your questions, so we can get those answered throughout the course of this webinar or at the very end. All right. So with that being said, again, welcome everyone. My name is Joshua Crouch with Relentless Digital, and I want to start telling you what this webinar is not about, because y'all know that there's a lot of webinars out there, a lot of choices for you to spend 60 to 90 minutes on, and we're not going to talk about spending more money on ads. We're not going to talk about getting more leads. In fact, if you walked away from today's session and never ran another ad again, the strategies I'm going to share with you are going to make you more money without spending another dime. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about what happens after the lead contacts your business. And in my experience, that's where the real money is hiding. As a quick little story on this, and some of you guys, if you've seen some of my recent social media posts, I've been posting a lot about what happens once a lead comes into your business, because that is where there are multiple drop-off points in the customer's journey. And these are all things that, while marketing and people like me that we can help set up automation can help you with, there are still things that we cannot help with. And in order for a marketing and a business to work very well together, this needs to be a very tight partnership. So I was talking to someone's been a client for a while in Texas, and it was an HVAC company a few months back. And he was spending over $15,000 per month on Google Ads. $15,000, a lot of money. Some of you, if you're a bigger company, maybe that's not a lot of money to you. Maybe you're spending that much and you want to get off that train, or at least lessen the train, because it is very pricey. And he was frustrated because his cost per book job kept going up. So he pulled his data, and we discovered he was only booking about 48% of the qualified leads that came in. The other 52%, this is, again, spending $15,000. So half of that money is essentially just burned and lit on fire. So he wasn't going to lose the bad leads. He was losing because of the process. He didn't realize there was some things inside of his operation that were broken, and that he could have automated to help recapture those leads. So with that being said, let's see, we got, Ron, I don't think I've ever seen you on one of these webinars, multi-unit franchisee in Texas. Welcome. Hi, Chelsea. We just talked recently. HVAC in Battleground, Washington. All right. Caradot, I hope I said your name right. Home Service in Virginia. Hey, Eddie. Good to see you. I don't remember if you're heading to the Key to Growth event. If you are, I look forward to seeing you next week. I know we talked about it. David, Plumbing in Austin. Nadine, Marketing in Queen Creek. I know where you're at, Nadine. Awesome. All right, guys, well, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Now, one thing I want you to do, you do not have to take a ton of notes for this. This will go out as a replay. But with that in mind, that doesn't mean tune out right now and go back and watch it later, because I have a ton of replays in my inbox and I don't watch them very rarely unless I get on a kick of something. So pay attention, ask your questions as soon as you have them. As soon as something comes up, even if you want to challenge me on something, throw it in the comment section and we'll get to that towards the end here. So real quick, why marketing automation? What makes me someone that you would actually want to listen to on marketing automation? I won't ever call myself an expert because there's always something to be learned. So back in 2018, I was managing a branch of an HVAC company in a town called Waukesha, Wisconsin. I would love to have you guys actually try to pronounce that, because it's not an easy name to say if you've never heard it before. And I was tasked with a very small group to grow a business that had no customers, nothing there. And so it was pretty much me, myself, and I in the office with a part-time person that helped me answer the phones in the morning. And I had to figure out how to get more reviews, how to take leads from ServiceTitan and just keep track of them so I didn't lose them. We were also using some lead aggregators at that point and figuring out how to essentially get to these people fast enough. Because you all know that the lead aggregators, HomeAdvisor, Angie, Yelp, even local service ads now, they share leads usually 3 to 4 times across, sometimes more. And the problem with that is if you are not immediate, meaning first and quick, and following up with those people, you're not going to get an opportunity. So in 2018, I didn't have automation yet. I didn't understand what Zapier was. That didn't come until about a year later when I was at Professional Services. But what I did is I did know how to save things on my smartphone at the time. So anytime we had a HomeAdvisor or Networks lead come in, or Thumbtack, even, we were using Thumbtack as well, I had text messages saved in my phone that I literally copy paste send. And then I would follow up again and I would follow up again. And some of that was just because that was literally my role, is to grow the business and grow it quick. So I focused on that. So that was my first foray into like, man, it'd be great to be able to automate this, because this process sucks. Because I would be at dinner, I was coaching our oldest club baseball team, and I'm standing at first base and I get a lead come in. I'm like trying to hide my phone and I'm trying to text those people because I wanted the lead to at least respond and to know that we had them taken care of. So processes have gotten a lot better. The technology, as you guys all know, has gotten a lot better, and we're going to dive into some of that stuff today. So I have on the screen more book jobs without more ad spend. It's kind of the opening dialogue that I had here. And I really want you guys to let that sink in, because that is, as a business owner myself, that is the perfect world scenario. More leads, more customers without more spend. And I don't want you to think of that as a marketing slogan, but more of a mathematical reality if you guys can have a system, an engine behind you, because you already have leads coming into your business. The question really is, how many of them are actually becoming jobs on your schedule? Because the data that we see with Relentless Digital, the data we see with PhoneTap, which are some really large contractors coming through and analyzing their call center performance, most companies are leaving 30 to 50% of leads and they're not booking. And it's a variety of reasons, and we'll dive into that a little bit. It's not because your marketing sucks. It's not because your team sucks. It's not because you don't care. It's not because you don't know what you're doing. It's just because we don't have an infrastructure that can automate most of this process for us with human oversight. Think about it like a leaky bucket. You're pouring water in the top. That is your ad spend. But there are holes in that bucket. Every missed call is a hole. Every slow response to a form submission is a hole. Every lead you never followed up with after the first attempt is another hole in the bucket. But what happens is, and the marketing agency world is kind of a big proponent of this, because you guys come to us and you guys say, I need more leads. So we say, okay, cool, let's spend more money. Let's go do this. Let's up our ad budget because we want to help you. But the problem is, instead of buying more water, we need to patch the holes forever. So that way we do not have any problems in any leaky parts of the bucket. And that's what we're going to focus on today, is patching the holes. So everything we are covering today comes down to 3 core pillars: lightning response, relentless follow-up, and nurture advantage. Now, I'm not going to talk specific tools today because there are so many tools that can do different things, and everybody has a different field service management software or an email tool or a text message tool. So I want to keep this very tool agnostic to focus on the actual premise of making this happen. Okay. So these 3 pillars really are a core, and they work together at various stages in your customer journey. My goal at the end of today is to make sure you know exactly where to get started. And most likely, if you're on this webinar, that doesn't mean you're going to start with all 3. It means you're going to start with one, get one dialed in, come back, watch it again, follow that section, get number 2 dialed in, and so on and so forth, because there's a lot of testing and tweaking that comes with these pillars. So think of these pillars as a 3-legged stool. If one leg is completely missing, that stool is going to fall and you're going to fall with it. And I've seen companies with lightning fast response times, but 0 follow-up. They win the first call, but they lose the long-term estimate because they stop following up with the customer that they've already been to. I've also seen companies with great nurturing sequences, but terrible response times. So they have loyal customers, but they can't convert new ones because they're too slow. So the magic really happens when we have all 3 stools set up properly. I'd like to take a little poll and have you guys, hey Travis, and have you guys do a little self-reflection. Which of these pillars do you believe you are the weakest at right now in your business? Not you personally, but your business is the weakest at. Lightning response, put A in the chat. If you think it's relentless follow-up, put B in the chat. And if you think it's nurturing your customers long-term, put C in the chat. You can put more than one answer as well, but pick the one that you feel that you are the weakest on, so I can make sure, just in case there's any trends here, I can spend a little bit more time and focus on those. Chelsea said relentless follow-up. Ron also said relentless follow-up. Okay, that's good to know. I love that. We got a couple A's. So lightning, so fast responses. Brant said B and C, relentless follow-up and nurturing. Fantastic. Appreciate you guys putting that stuff in the chat. That makes it a lot better for me running these webinars to be able to help you as much as possible. So I'm going to ask you guys a rhetorical question just to get your brains firing here. When business is slow, what's typically the first thing you think? We did cover this already, but it's, I need more leads. I need more jobs on the schedule. When your phone isn't ringing enough, what typically happens? You call your marketing company and you say, I need more. I need more. I need more. And believe me, we know, because this time of year, being in March, this happens a lot for companies like us. And your marketing company says, great, let's increase your budget. And that's the assumption that we're going to challenge today, because in most cases, the problem is not the number of leads, what happens with you already have. And as I told you guys from the outset, there were ways, my human automation that I had, which was basically me copying and pasting text messages. There is always a way to make something work. The problem with doing something like I was doing it is I was always on call, and I was always around my phone, and I always had to be on. And no matter what I was doing, as soon as my phone vibrated, I picked it up, looked at it just to make sure it wasn't another potential lead that I was going to miss. And that's not what we want for you guys. We want you guys to be able to go and enjoy vacation, build your team, train your team, work on operations, work on things that get in the field, do sales, whatever is your passion. That's what we want you to focus on, but we need to make sure that we don't lose any opportunities. So the reframe I want you to walk away with today is that you don't have a lead generation problem. Sure, more leads are always nice, but if we only focus on more leads, we're going to spend a lot more money, and we're not going to fix the actual thing that can really make our company not only grow, but more profitable, which I'm sure if any of you guys on here are business owners, that word doesn't get talked about enough. We want to build profit in your business. Profit in your business helps invest in trucks, new tools, team members, all sorts of things. You guys know what that looks like. So that's really what we want to focus on today, is growing your profit. Now, quick little story about professional services, because this is where from 2019 to 2021, I worked there, where I really focused on the internal marketing and operations of the business. The reason that we were so profitable, we averaged 15 to 18% net profit. We're about a $4 or $5 million company, was because our marketing spend was only about 2 to 2.5% of our top line revenue. Now I don't know what all of you guys spend on marketing, but most people I talk to, they're spending 6, 8, 10, 12, 15% of all of their revenue on marketing. So I know when I tell people like 2.5%, first of all, they look at me like, that's not possible. It is possible if you have the right infrastructure in place and you focus heavily on these pillars. And here's a simple analogy that I really want to hammer home to you guys, because I think sometimes we get so ingrained in, well, the gurus, the influencer said, I got to spend more, I got to spend more, I got to spend more. But I want to think of this analogy and how you would fix it. So imagine that you own not an HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing business, a restaurant, and you spend $5,000 a month to advertise to get people in the door. But when the customers walk in, nobody greets them. Nobody takes their order. They wait 10 minutes and they leave. Now, would you solve that problem by spending more money on marketing and advertising? Of course you wouldn't. The difference is, at a restaurant, you actually physically see people. In home services, they call us, they fill out a form, they go searching for services through HomeAdvisor or Yelp. So you'd fix the operation of the business, besides, and not just spend another $5,000 to have customers walk in and out. The difference is we have so many phone calls, and those phone calls are very quick, so we don't think of it the same way. And that's how I really want you guys to start thinking about this. Is that's not the best way to grow a business. That's the best way to go out of business and be broke. We talked about a pipeline, and I want you guys to picture what a funnel looks like real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes here. At the top of the funnel, you have all your leads coming in. This is your Google ads, your Angie's, your Google business profile, LSA, direct mail, radio, TV, anything and everything that comes in. But if we have holes in it, like we talked about, you have to keep filling the bucket over and over and over again. And that's just not a suitable way, especially in this market where now we are in a place where we have to market everywhere. Reddit threads, Facebook groups, social media, which of course is like 6 or 7 different profiles, radio, TV, community events. There's so many ways to fill the bucket. But if we don't have these things filled up, it doesn't really matter, because no matter what, we're going to waste almost 30 to 50% of that money. So I want you guys in the chat, just put a 1 through 4 when I ask this question. Which of these 4 holes that is on the screen right now do you think is costing your business the most money? Slow response, put a 1. Missed calls, put a 2. No follow-up or slow follow-up, put a 3. And no or slow nurturing, put a 4. And I apologize. When I look at the other screen here, that's where my all the chat and stuff is. So again, it's which of the 4 holes do you think is costing you the most money? Slow response, which is 1, missed calls 2, no or slow follow-up 3, and no nurturing sequence 4. Ron says 3 and 4, so no follow-up, no nurture. Eric, missed calls. Cardad, and I really hope I'm saying your name properly, 1 and 3, so slow response, no follow-up. Eddie says no nurture, 3 and 4. Jen says 1 and 2. Chelsea 3 and 4. Okay, so we have a really nice mix. Good. We're going to go over all these today. So I don't want to call people's baby ugly, but sometimes it's important to call somebody's baby ugly. And what I mean by that, that's obviously a metaphor, is for your business. Is everyone, at least the ones that post about their booking rates online, they all have amazing booking rates, 90, 95, 90. I've heard people say 98%. And they're full of it. It just doesn't happen. There's too many things that go on. And honestly, you don't always want to book 100% of leads either, because there are some filtering things that you want to take care of so you don't get the wrong customers. But in reality, and this is across about 50 to 60,000 calls, depending on the month that we look at monthly, the average home service contractor books at 55%. That's 55% of qualified leads, meaning, and our definition of qualified leads is someone that wants a service you offer in the area you serve. And so 55%. So I want that number to sink in a little bit, because that's 45%. That's just of the qualified leads. That doesn't include, now we went out to the house and now we only sold 60 to 70% of those something after the service fee. It's another drop off points. That's why only about 30 to 40% of actual customers or actual qualified leads actually pay you something. It's a very low number once you understand this. We did a recent call audit for an HVAC company. Now this was through PhoneTap. I'm not going to go into what that is today. They're in the southeast part of the country. Their ServiceTitan dashboard showed a 72% booking rate. Not terrible, not great. But when we actually had the AI analyze all of their calls over a 30-day period, and we actually listened to the calls that were marked not a lead, and about 30% of them were real service requests. What was happening is they were getting misclassified in the system, because the problem with the current way this stuff is monitored is the person taking the call gets to choose if it was a lead or not. That person also gets compensated based on how well they do. So we're kind of given the key, almost like the inmates are running the asylum as a metaphor, because it's just not the best way to do things. And then a lot of companies don't audit those calls. I won't mention names, but we had a client recently who we shared some call details with, and they didn't actually believe our data. We sent it to them, and they listened to these. They were storm damage replacement leads, and they couldn't believe what was happening in their call center, that these were not getting booked. So once they reviewed them, it was like an eye-opening moment. And that's really what we try to share with clients, with people that just follow our social media presence, is just to bridge the gap for these things, so that way you can waste less money, grow your business more profitably. The truth is, having someone analyze calls that's not the person that took the call usually reveals quite a few misclassified leads. And so the leak in the bucket is that when it's marked not as a lead, it often means missed opportunity. It means my favorite is the tire kicker. I don't know anyone that would ever call a home service business asking for a price that isn't in the market for a service you provide, unless they're just playing around with the Google send me prices thing, and the AI is calling and give them some feedback. It's the only thing I can think of. If they call and they're asking for a price, they don't know what else to ask, but they do need service. And this isn't really part of this webinar, but if you guys are, especially since it's March when we're recording this, if you're an HVAC and you're slow, or you're plumbing or electrical or whatever trade you're in, you're slow, think of your service consultation, diagnostic, dispatch fee, whatever you call it, as a lever. When your schedule's full or a normal busyness, keep the diagnostic fee. But as soon as your board gets down where you don't have enough jobs for that day or the next, or today or the next day, start waiving that fee, or bring the fee way down, reduce the barrier of entry, and book more jobs. Because a $19 fee, $49, $199, whatever the fee is not going to grow your business. It's what happens once we get inside the home, or we inspect the roof, or we look at the water heater. That's where the profit and where the money that's actually going to help our business grow is. So if we don't get out of the home, we don't even get a chance. It's almost like we're standing on the batter's box, since it's opening day across Major League Baseball. We're standing at the in the batter's box, but we never get an opportunity to step up to the plate and take a swing. And so that's something that I've shared recently. It wasn't really a full part of this webinar. It's just another strategic thing I wanted to share with you guys to think of. As soon as your schedule starts filling up, go back to the fee. If it really fills up and demand's high, make the fee even higher to start filtering people. But if you do, and I'll give an HVAC example, always, before you tell them how busy you are, ask for the age of the equipment you're going to be working on. Ask for the age of the roof. Ask for the age of the water heater, whatever it is, because we actually did this live on a podcast about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. It was a hot day here in Phoenix. We had a call coach on the thing. He called 3 companies on the air. Not one of them asked for the age. They all said, "Oh, I'm too busy today. We have to come out tomorrow or next week or whatever." And if they had asked, he was going to tell me he had a 25-year-old system. Now imagine in Phoenix, you have a 25-year-old system. What do you think is going to happen on that call? Those people, now granted, it wasn't a real situation, but if that happens, we need to know the age of the equipment. So just tips for you guys that I don't think get talked about enough. They don't get put in the Facebook groups and the coaching groups enough. That stuff is all operational things that can really enhance the revenue you bring into your business and how much return on investment you get in your marketing. Speaking of calls, this number has been consistent for the last 4 years for us. Overall, 13 to 15% of calls go unanswered. Now, we know those are all not leads. We don't count them as leads. About 45% of them are potentially leads. We know there's a lot of spam. There's solicitors, things like that. But this number should really make people uncomfortable and just look internally at how they can fix this. We have AI tools that can be in overflow. We have answering services. We can hire virtual assistants that speak nearly flawless English overseas and get paid a fraction of what we need here. A lot of opportunities to do this, because 13 to 15 out of every 100 calls goes completely unanswered. And some of these operators they're very good operators that are missing these calls. They just don't know it. Someone's on the line, another call comes in. They don't even know who called. They don't have an overflow system. It's very easy to miss calls, especially once demand peaks. All right, you guys have been very patient. Get about 25 minutes in here. So I want to start getting into lightning response as the first pillar. Now, I'm actually going to challenge this assessment that's on the screen, or the number that's on the screen here. We've all been told, we've all heard, seen that 5 minutes or less is the number. Now, in some markets, 5 minutes or less might work out really, really well. There's been a lot of research done on this. The note I have on the side here is like Harvard Business Review actually did a study on this. And it shows that if you respond to a lead and within 5 minutes, you're 100 times more likely, 100 times more likely to make contact than if you wait 30 minutes or more. That's a lot. It's an incredible number of, it's an exponential number of your ability to get to customers fast. So it's not a minor competitive advantage to have a system for this. It's a massive gaping opportunity for most home service companies. Now, I know this number is hard to track, but I do want to take a quick poll on this just in case some of you guys that answered that speed is a challenge for you. How fast do you believe your company typically responds to a new web form lead? We'll put in a bucket at lead aggregators as well, because it's kind of the same thing. Put a 1 in the chat if it's under 5 minutes and you feel like you're very confident that your team answers under 5 minutes. If it's somewhere between 5 and 30 minutes, put a 2. If it's 30 minutes to a few hours, put a 3. And then if it's same day or longer, put a 4 in the chat. Be honest. It's okay. When there's no, this is like Planet Fitness. There's no judgment here. Judgment-free zone, I think, is Planet Fitness's marketing slogan. Okay, we got some ones. Brant, I don't know what a 1.75 is. Appreciate the answer, though. Eddie 2, Eric 1 to 2, Evan 3, Lori 3. Okay, so we got some potential work to do there. Appreciate you guys being honest. So now in today's world, within 5 minutes, most likely, if they call you, you don't answer. They go to the next person, they don't answer. They go to the next person, they don't answer, because it is so dang easy on this device to call multiple people. As soon as you hang up, your screen goes automatically right back to Google Maps or ChatGPT or wherever you're searching from, and you get to call the next person. So then they're going to call, and they're going to hang up, they're going to call, and they're going to hang up. And one of the important things is that it's almost like if you guys have ever heard of pattern interrupts, where someone, you got someone talking and they just talk and talk and talk, and they kind of take up the air of the room. As soon as you like extend your hand or change motion, that pattern interrupt can kind of interrupt the entire flow of what they're doing. And what we're looking to do with lightning response is to immediately, even if we didn't answer the phone, is to get them something, get them a text message, get them an instantaneous thing that, hey, we're going to take care of you. We're going to call you in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that looks like for your company, and stop the scroll, interrupt the pattern that most homeowners are going to take. Because I'm gonna be honest, like we all think our customers are super loyal, but if someone is, for instance, even this week, last week it was 105 in Phoenix. We've had the 6 hottest days in March in Arizona history in the last week. It's been 100, 105 every single day in March. It's very warm for March. They're not going to sit around, even if they have a membership. If you don't answer them, they're not going to sit and wait around. They're going to call the next person. So as much as we want them to be loyal, if we don't have a system in place, we're going to lose existing customers as well. And existing customers we've already paid for. Those are free. They should be free. We don't have to pay for them again unless we lose them and then they're back in the market again a year later. So it's really important for us to have systems like this in place. So now we're going to start getting into what does that look like on the lightning response side. So we already know the first pillar is lightning response. I got a little flash here on the screen. The principle is very simple. The company that responds first wins the job. If any of you guys listen to Service Business Mastery, I would listen to the latest episode with Ryan Fenn, who is the founder and CEO of Chirp. We talked a lot about this during that episode. It's a recent episode. It should be somewhere along the last 5 episodes that have been released. But we talked a lot about this, and he actually we're very much aligned on this, a lot of synergy on 30 seconds or less. And sometimes that means it's not the company with the best reviews or the most reviews or the company with the lowest price or not the company that's been in business for 50 years or the longest in business. It's the company that responds first and is going to take care of that homeowner. And then we've already mentioned there's a lot of data that plays this out, but speed is one of the highest leverage things you can fix in your business, bar none. The 3 primary lead sources that most people are ignoring, and actually I know Evan's on here. Evan works for Free Agency. Brianna Skiffington from Free Agency put out a fantastic article on lead aggregators and how to maximize those, because they have clients that are getting a 6, 7, 8, 10 to 1 return on lead aggregators when everyone else says they're crap, they don't work. So all of these can work. And all of these should be part of the mix, because right now, if you're in a business that's slower or shoulder season, there's opportunity. And sometimes that opportunity, they may not find your website, your Google business profile. Maybe they go to Yelp. Maybe they go to HomeAdvisor. Maybe they're on a website somewhere and something pops up and these other big aggregators are marketing to these people and they get them in their funnel and they sell the lead. There's opportunity there if you have the right system in place. And these are the 3 biggest ones. We talked about missed phone calls, web forms. I know there's a lot of spam on web forms, especially with some of the AI stuff that's out there. There's a lot of spam, and we do a lot to try to protect people from that. But these need to be replied to instantaneously. If you get leads from a manufacturer, like for instance, I know Mitsubishi, Trane, I'm sure there's some roofing manufacturers and stuff like that that send leads, and some of those go to email. There is a way, once you get that email, to automatically have something parse or read that email, grab the name, email, phone number, and send a message to those people. All of that can be done. At least the first touch point can be done automatically. And lead aggregators, they always send name, email, phone numbers, so those can absolutely be done. I kind of preface this a little bit, but I want to set the new standard for the trades. And that's 30-second response time or less. So near instantaneous, or about as fast as technology can probably move at this point in time. And that should be the new goal for your company. Not 5 minutes, not 30 seconds. I know if some of you guys that mentioned that response time right now is more like 30 minutes to an hour or a couple hours, this may seem a little daunting. It's really not as daunting as you think. What we have to do is we have to think about all of the places customers reach out to us. Maybe it's Facebook Messenger. Maybe it's, like I mentioned, You get the leads via email or a web form, or they come through a different channel. There's a bunch of channels, so I can't name them all. But if we write all those things down, then we start coming up with a plan of how we can attack each one of those until all of them are done, and we have a new standard of every single lead always gets a 30-second or less response time. And that response doesn't necessarily have to close the deal. We just have to stop them from searching, so they don't keep going to Google. They don't look for another provider. We just want them to know, I got your message. I'm going to call you back. Don't worry, we're going to take care of you. And that's really what it looks like. So what does that look like in practice? So let's say a homeowner fills out a contact form on let's just say a Saturday night at 9:50 at night. You know, sometimes stuff doesn't break when we want it to. Stuff breaks whenever it happens. And then within 30 seconds at night on a Saturday, they receive a text saying, hi, Dave, this is ABC Heating. Thanks for reaching out. We'd love to help. What's the issue you're dealing with today? Something that's going to stop them. It's going to engage them in the conversation and realize that there's someone on the other end that's going to answer them. And that homeowner is still sitting there. They just found you. They just contacted you, and they're already starting to get a response. And that's how you stop the scroll, is something as simple as that. Now, that's a very important piece. There's going to be, as we get into some of the nurturing and some of the relentless follow-up, you're going to see how this can really play a part on the entire customer journey. But there's a huge opportunity here for people in the trades to set the standard in their market, because everyone's used to the 5 minutes or less. So the big companies do that. But at some point, big companies don't move as fast. They're Titanics. They can't steer away from the iceberg sometimes. Smaller companies are more flexible. They can move in and out much quicker, and you guys can adapt much faster. So here's a flow. And again, it's just tool agnostic. Okay. So, and some of you guys may have questions on tools, and that's totally fine. I'm happy to answer those questions at the end, but this is what the flow looks like. So let's just say a form submission comes in through your website. You're going to send this to whatever platform you use, Constant Contact, MailChimp, Chirp. It really doesn't matter. It can be, there's like all kinds of sources out there for this. We put in a prompt with ChatGPT or Claude. We qualify the lead first of all, especially on the web form. We don't want to send text messages, emails to all the spam and the crap. So we qualify based on the message they send us. And as soon as it says they're qualified, we send them a text and potentially even an email just in case. And then we add that customer automatically to whatever field service management software you use. The caveat to that is it needs to have an open API. And if you don't know what that is, please ask me. I'm happy to share that. The next step would be to notify your team. Whoever is the person who is your leading customer service rep, office manager, service manager, whatever that looks like in your business, we notify that person. It doesn't have to be you. Now, if you're a small company, it's probably you as the business owner. But if not, have someone who is the lead with the expectation that when these come through, we need to call them as soon as we see this. Doesn't matter when, we need to call them. And then we can add this also to a task management system or a pipeline of sorts. Most CRMs have some sort of pipeline. This entire process can run and be done within 30 seconds. And again, the reason I'm not going into tools is because you can do this with Make.com, Pabbly, Zapier, N8N, OpenClaw, Claude Code, Perplexity, Computer. Like, there's literally an endless amount of things, and I don't know what everybody's level of skill is. If you don't know where to start, I would start with Zapier. Zapier is the most friendly. If you've gotten pretty good talking to AI tools, I would probably start with Claude Code to start building something. You can literally take a screenshot of what I have here, give it some context about your tools and what you want to try to do, and have it try to build it. Or if you know what tools they are, Zapier can be your friend too. This is something that we do a lot. But we are transitioning a lot of our stuff over into OpenClaw and Claude Code and some of the things like that. So we don't have to be really worried about the tool. The automation always happens without some things that sometimes break in the background. But that's really the flow for us as far as the initial touch point. Now, some caveats to this: if you're on the if it's the weekend, you may want to follow up a couple times. Like, let's say you send that first message, you said, "Hey Dave, it's ABC Heating. How can I help you?" Essentially. They don't answer. Within another 5 or 10 minutes, maybe another text message goes out, then maybe a phone call, an email, a ringless voicemail. You can set up as many of these as you need to make sure that you get the job done, or until the customer says F you or unsubscribe. And that's, as we're going to start getting into relentless follow-up, you guys are going to kind of understand where my mind's at with that. I know sometimes people don't want to be as, what's the kind word, as in your face about it. But you, as the business owner, paid for that lead. That lead came in. The worst thing you can do is worry more about being the nice guy or nice girl than I'm going to go get that lead. I'm going to go attack that lead. That is my opportunity. And that's just a mindset shift that I think some business owners need to have, because I've had it where we set this stuff up for clients. Like, oh, I don't really want to bug my customers. I don't really want to bother them too much. Somebody else will. It might as well be you, especially since you're putting your money, your investment back in to find new customers. Take advantage of that when they contact you. This is a big one. Missed call is not a lost lead. We want to turn dead ends into conversations instantly. And missed call text backs is a huge opportunity. And I would also classify abandoned calls, which are those ones, I'll use ServiceTitan as an example. A lot of calls get classified as abandoned in ServiceTitan. You can automatically send a text and email to those people, or a text if you have the phone number, and then voicemails. If you have a voicemail box set up, it's another opportunity. As soon as a voicemail comes through, send them a text. At least let them know that you got the information, or you got your voicemail, and you're going to contact them back shortly. And this is just an example of what this looks like. There's a lot of ways to, there's a lot of different ways to trial and error the actual message that goes out, but it's just instantaneous. Hey, we're sorry we missed you. We're on the phone. We're with a customer. I'm in the basement, whatever that looks like. Can I ask what you need help with today? Something like that. And then they get a response, and then just make sure that somebody is owning that response. That's why it's better to have some sort of technology. If you're a small business owner, do not ideally use your personal cell phone, because now you have a process that cannot scale. We want to make sure that we have a process that can scale. So when you add a team member that manages your customer interactions when these come in, or your speed to lead, you can hand it off to them. You're not going to be able to hand them your cell phone. So use something like a Go High Level, Chirp, Hatch, whatever. Constant Contact's got text message ability, and they're pretty inexpensive. So whatever that looks like, just make sure it's a process that can scale and not something that you're tied to, where it always comes to your cell phone. All right. So pillar 2, relentless follow-up. This doesn't mean we're going to follow up once or twice or even 3 times. Most of you guys have seen this data. If you've ever been in any sort of sales webinar, or you've watched some videos, or you've seen some studies on sales in general, 80% of sales happen after the 5th contact. Now, I know in home services, the push is always to close in home. It doesn't happen still a lot of times. There is a lot that happens, especially with repairs, but bigger jobs, bigger estimates don't necessarily close, because you need a spouse, or you need to talk about it, think about it, get a proof of financing, etc. But the problem, because home services, we always have new jobs, we always have new customers, we always have new opportunities. We follow up once or twice, then we move on to the next one. And then the next one after that, and the next one after that. And we forgot about the ones that we already went out to and already provided an estimate and had a great conversation with. The only time we spend more time following up is when we don't have new leads. And that's also why, quick tip, don't give your sales team more than 2 or 3 leads a day. If you give them 5 or 6, they're just going to keep moving on to the next one. Give them 2 to 3, limit the opportunities. I promise they'll actually probably close more and follow up better if you don't. But your job is to be the company that does not give up on these leads. Again, you paid for them. Automation can help. And this is where relentless follow-up and nurturing really go hand in hand, because you can do a lot with both of these. So I would love to see from those that are on the webinar, how many follow-up attempts do you believe your team makes on an unbooked lead or an open estimate? And put the number in the chat. How many times do you think your team follows up with that based on what you know right now? Okay, Chelsea said they follow up 3 times daily. Eddie, is that daily until you get an answer? Is that what you mean by that? Lori said 3 times. Karia, apparently 3 is a very popular number for follow-ups. Awesome. 10 to 15 times in 30 days. Jen, fantastic. I love that answer. Eddie, I love it. That's the relentless attitude right there till they say no. You're absolutely right. Because our job when someone has us come out is to get a yes or a no, period. That is the job of our follow-up sequence. Thank you guys for sharing that. We talked about this already. I'm going to kind of skip through a few of these. So I don't want to make sure we're at, I don't go over time. So we talked about this and, basically what you guys are sharing in the chat, except for a couple like Jen and Eddie, competitors stop at 1 to 3 attempts. So we've talked about this, and that's why I wanted you guys to give me that information, because we can go further with this. Evan put some really good stuff in the chat here. Unbooked leads is 7 text messages, 3 emails, and you wish they called more. Sales follow-up is 5. So there's always opportunity to go further with that too. I once, when I was in CEO Warrior back in 2019 and 2020, we had a playbook that I was working to implement that was called, I think it was called like Warrior Follow-Up or something. It was literally 365 days. Now, granted, not every single day, but after a certain point, once a week, we were following up until, again, somebody said no. I didn't fully get it implemented, but I loved the idea behind it to just follow up, nurture, educate, keep your brand in front of their eyeballs so that way they don't ever forget about you. This is just a little graph to illustrate the point of where we can go further with this conversation here, is to go a lot further, have more touch points. Don't give up. Don't stop at 1 or 2 or even 3, especially with the unbooked leads. Like Evan said, go 7 or 8 times within a 5-day period and use every channel you can think of, because they need something. Now, they might have gotten distracted. Maybe they didn't answer the phone. Maybe they didn't understand your number, but they will answer at some point, or after like a week or 2, you can, at that point, you can give up. But you gave it the good old college try. You really tried to maximize the marketing spend by trying to get that appointment booked. We all love, I don't even remember what movie this is from, but the fortune is in the follow-up. That's an old saying. It applies more than in home services than ever today, because 1, people aren't spending like they were in COVID. You guys all are probably very well aware of that. So we need to stay in front of them as often as possible. People aren't leaving their homes. Moving, because their interest rates were locked in very low, and their interest rates aren't as low now. I think I saw a study that people are staying in their home on average like 8.5 years, which it was like 4 or 5 years not that long ago, which less movement, less changing houses, less projects, less big projects they put into their homes sometimes. So there's a lot of things in the home service industry that's struggling. We're also at the bottom of this 15-year cycle when it comes to replacement systems. And we've also pulled some forward during COVID of doing big projects because everyone had money and they had free money, if you will. So it's harder now to sell someone than it was in the past. Before, it was like, just like on the screen, they're throwing money at you any which way you could. Financing was super easy. So we have to do more. We have to go deeper than we used to go. This is an example of a touch point, a sequence for, just like Evan was talked about, when you miss a call. So we already showed the example of the lightning response, where it was an instant text, a manual call within 10 minutes, another text 30 minutes later, a follow-up text. This could be email as well. Same day, another text. And then for the next couple of days, at least 1 touch point per day. Did you get that problem taken care of? How can I help? We're running a new customer special. There's so many different things. You could literally take the screenshot, throw it into Claude or ChatGPT, and ask it to write most of these for you, based on your business, and you'll get some really good ideas there. But this is just a really quick example, so that way you can go further. You can book more. Now, I don't think I have a slide on following up with estimates because that's going to get into the nurture sequence here. But one thing, when you build a sequence, any sequence, it doesn't matter what it's for, you have to think about what the customer is going through when they call you or contact you. If they contact you and you know it's hot outside and you're an HVAC, you know what they're calling about. The AC is not working. So what touch points can we think of that? What are their concerns? What are the things they're thinking about? And build our touch points around things like that. Because if we just send like blanket ones, like I've seen people follow up with estimates like, hey, I'm just checking in on the estimate. It's a waste of a touch point. It doesn't move the conversation towards a finish line. It's just trying to kind of annoy them. Let's follow up, touch and base. Don't use any of that stuff in these opportunities. Use something that asks an open-ended question, kind of like I'm doing with when I'm asking you guys questions in the chat. Ask a question that's designed to get a response. Try to help them as much as possible. I'm just trying to talk through a few tips here because I don't have exact messaging on the screen that can help you guys as you develop your system. So when you combine persistence with automation, that's where the magic comes in. Persistence alone can be exhausting. Your team burns out after making call after call or texting manually. Automation alone can be very impersonal, and it can feel robotic if it's not done right. But persistence plus automation is really your unfair advantage. And that's why we call this the relentless follow-up system. Lastly, last pillar before we get into Q&A is going to be nurture advantage. This is where things are going to get a lot more customized. It's also a lot harder because you really have to think through the customer's journey even further. Lightning response, we got to get a response to them quick. That's not as difficult. Following up on a missed call or a web form submission or a lead aggregator 7, 8, 9, 10 times, that's not as difficult either because some of that messaging can be pretty easy to put together. But this is where your long-term money is. This is also where your company is going to take your existing customers and expand the lifetime value much further. And that's by nurturing, or the nurture advantage, as I call it. Because we all know customer acquisition is expensive. Retention is super cheap. You already own that. You already have that customer. They already know, like, and trust you for the most part. And a customer that's already booked something with you guys is 5 times more likely to book again than a cold lead. I don't have a slide for this, but we did with PhoneTap, we did some analysis of booking rates for existing customers and new customers with both humans and some AI voice technology. And this is going to kind of hammer home the point that I'm trying to make here. Existing customers for the human CSRs booked at like an 88% rate. AI actually booked at a higher rate, which was, I didn't actually expect that, but it makes sense because existing customers that have already seen you, they know, like, and trust you, they have a favorite technician, they like your brand, they know the company, they're willing to hold and they're willing to go through an experience with AI because they know that your service team is good. But the thing that really stood out to me is when booking new customers, human CSRs were actually about 10 to 15 points higher than AI. Because think about it, if somebody doesn't know, like, and trust you and their first experience is an AI, they don't know what to think. Well, this is weird. I don't want to talk to this thing. I can tell it's AI. So it's the point of the matter is people that know, like, and trust you are willing to live with a couple mistakes or a couple nuances to your business, or maybe an AI agent that's a little robotic or doesn't sound quite as real. New customers are not. And that gets into just how important it is to get existing customers and stay in front of them because they like, know, and trust you, and they're not going to go anywhere if you take care of them. One of the worst experiences, I mean, and any of you guys put a 1 in the chat if this has happened to you, because it's happened to me. We serviced a customer and went out to the house. I was doing emails, I was doing all the marketing and staying in front of them. And then lo and behold, I drive past their house on the way to work, and I noticed that another truck, a competitor's in the driveway, and they're pulling out a brand new air conditioning system, and we did not even get a chance to quote that job. Put a one in the chat if that's ever happened to you, because it has happened to me. Now, obviously, I don't know how many times it's happened, but I have seen it, and it is one of the most frustrating experiences because I bought the customer once through, I think, LSA or whatever it was. We went out, we did great work. They might have even left us a 5-star review. And then they didn't even give us a chance because they forgot we existed, or they couldn't remember our name. So they went back to Google or back to wherever they searched from, and they found someone else, and we didn't even get a chance to step up to the plate. I'd love to know if any of that's ever happened to you guys in your career, at least that you know of. If not, my guess is it has happened and we might not even know it, depending on your service area. But it is the most frustrating thing that could possibly happen is they go back to Google and they don't even give you a chance because we didn't stay in front of them. We didn't nurture them. We didn't educate them on why our company's the best and why they should keep contacting us, why they should get their maintenance done, why they should change their filters, all of these different things to help increase or enhance the relationship we have with those customers. Chelsea just said, I just had this happen and I wanted to cry. I feel you, Chelsea. It is very frustrating when you spend that kind of money to get a lead and they don't even give you a chance for the big project that you really want them to do with your company. So the truth is, you cannot personally call customers after every job. You can't personally send every seasonal reminder, but you can, your system can do this for you. Just like you can't personally send one email at a time about why it's like right now, this time of year, why you should get your AC tuned up before heat comes. You're not going to manually do that across your entire customer database. So one of the highest value, lowest effort automations you can implement is a pre-arrival sequence. This is before your technician shows up. They receive a couple automated messages. First, hey, your appointment's booked on so-and-so. Most CRMs do this now in today's world. If possible, do a technician intro, because who doesn't want to know who's coming over their house? What do they look like? What's their experience level? And then third, what to expect when they get there. I can't remember who I was talking to on the podcast, but we were talking to someone about, I'm sorry. It was actually, if you're a customer of ours, go back and watch the AMA we had with Brian Burton. He's Blue Collar Closer is his group. Very, very good sales trainer. And he talked about that one of the biggest things that he was missing in his sales presentation earlier in his career was setting expectations of what was going to happen. People like certainty. They like to know what's going to happen. They don't want to be surprised, especially with the work that all of you guys do. They don't want to get a surprise bill, get a surprise. I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to call me? Are they going to park in my driveway? Are they going to park on the road? They don't know what's going to happen. So these are little touch points when the job is dispatched that we can send. Hey, just so you know, we're going to park on the side of the road. Mike is going to, he'll be there in 30 minutes or less. He's dressed in a company shirt and a company truck, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever that looks like for you, let them know what to expect. This can be done on estimates as well. This is one of the first automations I ever set up in ServiceTitan. I was using Marketing Pro at the time. We did it for generators and whole home systems. Hey, the visit's going to be about 2 hours. We're going to be going over this, 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 and this. That's why this is important. Just so you know, make sure you have the time set aside if possible. If you have two decision makers, if both could be there so that you guys could answer your questions. And we had much better show up rates. We didn't have cancellations. People knew what to expect on the visit, and it helped their close rates. This is nurturing unsold estimates is literally one of the biggest opportunities that I see in the trades. I see a lot of people that have Marketing Pro, or they have, I think House Call Pro's got some sort of system for following up with leads, and I'm sure there's other ones, but they don't know how to use it. And so if you don't do anything else today, go back to your existing estimates, the ones you've already priced out a repair, a replacement to. You've already been there. You've already done the whole shtick, the whole get to know the customer, their pain points, put together some options. Our job is to try to close those, and we need to nurture those. And there's a few tips on the screen here to nurture these to it. Yes, use your reviews. Use your reviews. Take a review. If they're looking for a system replacement, send them a review that talks about someone that got a system replacement. If they're a repair, send them someone that had great service or great repair. Educate them on whatever the thing is that they called about. So, for example, and I don't have any examples that I prepared, but if, top 7 tips to hire a contractor to replace your roof, whatever that looks like for your business, there's a treasure trove of these things if you just search for them on any AI tool. But educate them on why they need to watch out for those things. Educate them on, if you want to, on the brands of material that you use, or the warranties and why it's so important, or what you do post sale that is different than your competitors. Maybe you offer, you give a free year of filters or maintenance, or you come back and check a year later, whatever that looks like for your business. We were talking about warranties. Make sure they know that you have payment options. I usually use the word payment options versus financing, but it really depends on what you're comfortable with. But make sure they know you have this as an option. And if you have any promos, make sure they know. The worst thing that can happen is you go to a job, they don't hire you because they didn't know that they could pay $99 a month over a period of time. They thought they had to pay the big $10,000 chunk at once. So there's a lot that can go into this. So you pre-sell, go to the job site. If the estimate's still open, nurture on the back end of that. That nurture sequence can literally last as long as it takes. So I know we've talked about at least 6 or 7 touch points. I would probably build out like 12 to 15. Now, once the job is done, this is where we continue to build the relationship. And this is another big area of opportunity in the trade. So think about it like this. So I'll use a couple examples. Let's say you had a customer that got maintenance done. Okay. You went out, you did a maintenance, you did tune up. Maybe they got a membership with your company. With that maintenance, that's a proactive customer. Customers that wait for things to break are reactive customers. Okay. The best, most profitable businesses are the ones that have a fantastic maintenance program, whatever that looks like for your trade. Meaning we get to schedule them when we are not busy, because maintenance isn't a priority. It's not like I have to get there today. So the best thing you can do with your customer list is educate them on why we need maintenance. So proactive customers, give them proactive tips on their system, their home, anything of value there, filter replacements, or, when they should flush their water heater, things like that. Reactive customers that wait for things to break, we want to try to convert them into proactive customers, ones that schedule maintenance versus waiting for breakdowns. And the reason why this is so important, if you take care of your maintenance customers, all of your customers, during shoulder seasons or when there's less demand, when demand picks up, you are able to acquire everybody else's customers that they couldn't service. It makes your customer acquisition costs go down. And that's why it's so important to have them as maintenance customers. And then if they get a new system, make sure they fill it, make sure they register for the warranty. They know when to change their filter or when to service it. Some other tips to make sure it runs for a long time. Those things, again, you can write those emails one time, send them in a sequence, and that sequence runs forever. Every single time somebody comes into that filter. The other things you can do after service is over, almost everyone asks for reviews, or at least has some sort of automation ask for reviews. They don't do this one though. Do you know anyone else that could use our help and start building your referral base? It's become such a problem in the trades that there's like 4 or 5 companies that literally do nothing but just build a referral program for contractors. And then seasonal reminders. As soon as the seasons change, like right now, we just got into spring. What does that mean for your industry? What should you be looking for? If you're in roofs, should you get your roof inspected? Should you check for water damage? What's going to happen once seasons change? What kind of things are going to happen to that system? What problems should they be on the lookout for? Those are the types of pieces that you can put in place here. This is a big reason why I kept this tool agnostic. There is an evolution in the trades where we're all becoming tech companies now. And I think that's going to continue. I don't see that stopping. So you don't need more tools or me to add more to your stack or more things like, hey, from this one, switch to this one. You need to integrate all of the tools together, and you need to implement a system that is going to make that happen. Now, the bridge, we talked about this. So if you don't know anything about this, we do have a course and community that talks about how to use Zapier. I'm not trying to get anyone to sign up for that today, but we can teach you how to do this, or Trade Automation Pros can build a system for you that works with whatever tools you have. We've even been able to work with some tools that I've never even heard of before, because we have developers that can implement that stuff. But whatever it looks like, find a way to implement the gaps in your business based on the answers you provided me in the chat today. Here's a minimal automation stack of tools. So if some of you guys don't have something for these, that's where I would look. Wherever the gap is, you need some sort of AI tool. These are my guess is most of you guys have one of these already. And that's just for qualifications and helping with messaging and copywriting. Have an SMS and email platform. There's a ton of them out there. There's ones that are even cheaper than the ones that most of you guys know about, but you just have, the difference is you have to set it up yourself. Need an automation platform, something that can connect softwares together to make this system work, that's where APIs come into place. And then you need some sort of CRM, field service management software, ServiceTitan, House Call Pro, Breezy, Sarah, Jobber, Workies. There's a bunch of them. Have some place where you have customer records, because that's kind of the hub of where this whole system works. And the thing to remember is automation, especially today in 2026, is not nearly as complicated as it once was. 6-7 years ago, even Zapier was not easy to use, and it was a big learning curve for me. It's not complicated anymore. If you can speak and type into Claude Code or Perplexity Computer or OpenClaw, and you can essentially build an automation by chatting with a tool. So just know that. And I'm happy to answer more detailed questions on that, because we could literally go on a rabbit hole for probably about 4 hours on those different tools. There's some examples. You guys get the point. Setting these things up really, really, really helps businesses win in today's market. If you pick one pillar and you optimize that one pillar, most likely whatever your investment of time is, you're going to pay for itself. And the beauty is, because it's automated, it's going to pay for itself again and again and again. It's like going back to a broken slot machine. Every time you put a quarter in, you get a bunch of money out. It's the same premise here. Set it up once. So invest 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour of your time to build one system. And then that system just keeps helping you over and over and over again. So just as a recap, to bring it all together, the complete system is lightning response. Be the first person to call or the first person to contact the customer is what I should say. Less than 30 seconds. Relentless follow-up. Don't stop at 1 to 3 touch points. Build 7, 8, 9, 10 touch points out for whatever the part that's hurting your business. Automated persistence captures 80% of the sales that other people miss. And then to build trust and to build your business at scale, the nurture advantage is a huge component. If I had to choose, if you were struggling, build lightning first, then relentless follow-up, then nurture advantage, because nurture advantage is also going to take a little bit more time. But as an example, nurturing is how I've gotten a lot of you guys on these webinars month over month over month. Is We send 2 emails a week. We're trying to educate, nurture, train people on all of these different things and try to give as much education as possible. Do the same thing on Facebook. Take what's working for a business like mine, who's been on the Inc. 5000 list for the last 2 years. Do the same thing and make it work for your trade or your business, even if your business isn't in the trades and you're watching this. Awesome. I actually did really good today. I was only 10 minutes over my time. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'm going to move my screen back over here and stop sharing so I can pull up. Actually, how can I do this where I can at least keep the, does that work? Okay, I figured it out. Us tech savvy people sometimes struggle as well. So before I get into the questions and I answer those, if you guys want to book a strategy call with Relentless Digital to talk about this, because we do quite a bit of setup for clients, the different systems that they have to help them with this, whether it's through Bullseye Pro, Marketing Pro, Chirp, we help set up any of those. We can definitely help you. If you don't have, you're not a client, you're happy with your marketing and you want to discuss setting up these automations, you don't know where to start, you can reach out to automations and that's plural, at tradeautomationpros.com. We can walk through your tech stack and figure out how to build this for you. You just got to tell David, who's our project manager, what that looks like for you. So, all right, questions. I don't know if I saw a ton. No, there's a few. All right, Eddie asked, your group, I think that means Relentless, asked me to move to a new location, so I don't have an existing client base to pull from this time of year. My market spend is double digit. No Google, but boots are on the ground with door hangers, yard signs. Any other ideas? I have a lot of ideas, Eddie. But either way, even if you moved your office location, that doesn't mean you don't have an existing client database. I don't recall exactly which CRM you have, but wherever your customer records are stored, that is your database. It doesn't necessarily mean where your Google listing is at. So we can definitely still reach out to people inside of your existing database and set that up. And based on some of the stuff I talked about, if we have a good system set up, we can do things like lead aggregators. Because I know right now, being HVAC, it's not exactly the most ideal time to get new customers and stuff like that. So we can definitely talk through some of those things if you want to email me separately on that. So Cardad asked, and I think there's some confusion here. So great question. How do you respond in 30 seconds when after hours, even if you have an automatic message set up? So the first message is the part that happens within 30 seconds. I'm not saying you have to wake up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and send a message to somebody if they replied. The goal is to get them to stop the initial scroll and stop looking for more competitors that you have to go against. Get that initial message out and that initial reply, then take care of that initial reply when you can. Ideally, and I don't know the size of your company, when that step that had where we send the notification out to our team, ideally you have more than one person that gets that notification. So that way we can have 2 or 3 or 4 people reach out to that customer right away. That's kind of a different discussion. It depends on the size of your team and what the capabilities are there. Jen asked, is text message response after a missed call better than having a call queue? I would do both, Jen. It's a good question. I would do an initial text. So that way you get that initial response in less than 30 seconds. And then I would still have a call queue. I don't know if I can go back to that. I don't remember what slide it was. I was going to go back to the slide, but in the call queue is like within 5 or 10 minutes, make a phone call. So I would still have a call queue, but get that initial text message out there because they may respond right away via text message and you don't even need to call. You can just answer back and forth with text, get them booked. Or if they go back and forth and it's easier to just get on the phone, you can just say, hey, I'm just going to give you a call in 2 minutes. Are you available? Because they might be at work and you can get that scheduled. But I would do both. And that's where multiple touch points with different avenues can be really valuable. Chelsea asked, does Go High Level do most of the automations you speak about? Yes. I will give the caveat, though, that High Level has a learning curve because it is essentially an open source place where you can do about 50 or 60 different automations, and you have to know how to sequence those things in order so it makes sense. So there's a learning curve there. But if you're into automation, it can literally do anything you want it to do. So it is very powerful. It is also, there's a learning curve. So just be aware of that. Jen, thank you for clarifying. So you're saying almost like having someone on hold, I'm assuming is what you're asking, and then they're kind of sitting in the call queue and then somebody picks up as soon as they're available. I don't think that's a terrible idea. I also don't think people want to sit on hold real long. There might be data that suggests otherwise, but if they're sitting on hold, like I know sometimes one of the biggest frustrations of live answering services in the trades is during the peak demand times when we need answering services to answer within 30 seconds the most. People are sitting on hold for 3, 5, 10 minutes, and it's not a great user experience for the contractor. So either way, like, because there's ways, for instance, with CallRail, I have an automation set up for a speed to lead automation that if calls are, I think it's under 45 seconds, the customer talk time is less than 10%, we send a text message because CallRail doesn't always classify those things as missed calls, because if you have this call may be recorded for quality assurances, it's going to say that was an answered call, which is not accurate all the time. So I know I got a little off track on your question there, but people will only wait so long. So I would always have something, even a text message. Maybe if the phone doesn't get answered in 30 seconds and it goes to whatever that call queue is, a text message could be sent from that point, just to make sure that they don't, if they leave, they got something from you. Because if they hang up and you don't, I mean, it sounds like you have a pretty decent follow-up system in place from the comments you left on the side comments here. It's possible that you don't ever get to reach that customer again. So it's better just to have a backup system just in case. Oh, good. I thought you were going to San Antonio, Eddie. So I'm excited to see you. We'll hang out. Brittany and I will be there. So we'll see you on Monday. Chelsea asks, how often do we call someone who got an estimate for a high ticket and fell off the face of the earth after? Let's say we know they went with someone else because they told us they would make a decision that week and now aren't responding to any outreach. I think there's some interesting ways that you can lower that resistance, because what happens is people don't want to let you down. They don't want to tell you the bad news, so they just ignore you instead. But I think sometimes if you knew that, you could have messages that say something like, hey, we know you're going to make a decision within a week. Haven't heard from you. Did you get that project taken care of? Just a simple yes or no helps me. If it's no, that's totally cool. I'll take you off my list. I just want to know. Something where you kind of remove the barrier there, or that resistance to make an answer, so they feel totally comfortable saying no, because it is possible maybe they didn't get it done. Things come up in life all the time. It's crazy. Like this, I can't really share the stories because it was kind of a really sad thing. But we had a tragic something happened to one of our clients this week. It was totally out of the blue. I just talked to them a couple weeks ago. It was really sad. Like, stuff happens and life throws all kinds of curveballs. So it's possible that they might have wanted to get it done that week. They just didn't get it done. So I would continue to follow up with them. But then maybe you can tweak your messaging after a certain point, like I just gave you an example of. Cool. Nadine? Oh, I was just going to ask you for any more questions, and Jen popped in there with another one. How are you able to personalize these messages so well while doing automation? Ooh, Jen, that's a great question. That is where AI tools come into play. And that's also why I like building workflows through tools like N8N or Zapier or things like that, because I can build these steps in there where I can give the AI I'll say ChatGPT for simplicity's sake, context about what I want it to say and context about that customer, because there's fields, and I can't show it right now because I don't have it up in Zapier, where you can pull in like the CSR summary, the technician's notes, the estimate options, call recordings. You can pull the pieces of information in to create more customized messages for those people. So, an example, one of the things that we do for clients is we call it Real Story Chronicles. We connect to their CRM and we take information from their jobs. We write an engaging story, which turns into a blog post and pulls an image from their CRM that's relevant to the blog. And these blog posts are they're really great. Like I've seen a lot of them, but we gave it the context of what the customer was calling about, the city they lived in, context about the local weather and the local maintenance tips and stuff like that. So there are ways to do it. I will say that some of these things that I'm talking about right now are a little more advanced than your run-of-the-mill lightning response type setup, but it's definitely possible to do. And we can connect with that offline if you want and kind of run through what that might look like for you specifically, if you'd like. Awesome. I don't see any more questions and my voice is getting hoarse, so I'm going to end it here. Nadine will send out a recording for all of you guys by probably next week, since tomorrow's Friday. So by next week, so be on the lookout for that. I can always be reached with questions. I'm happy to answer them anytime you guys have them. Feel free. My email will be on there, or Nadine's email will be on there. We'll make sure we take care of you guys. Thank you guys for attending today. And if some of you guys are coming to some of these events I'm going to in the future, I look forward to saying hey and meeting you guys. See you guys. Have a great day.